I swear, the only bad thing about being a member of Book of the Month is that it is so difficult to choose which book to get each and every month. Hi, so welcome to this vlog. I am getting ready for work, so I wanted to update you, go ahead and update you because I do not know what today is gonna look like. So that clip you just saw yesterday was from the last day of January. I had opened my book of the month and just could not for the life of me figure out which book to choose. I think I've made a choice now. I think I'm going to get The Golden Couple, which is the thriller. It is a bit like I'm not quite sure if I should get that one because it mentions a therapist with unconventional methods, and I, as a psychology major and as someone who went into my psychology degree wanting to be a therapist, I've since changed my mind. But and someone who's been in a lot of therapy, I have a lot of opinions on how therapy should be done. Also, please don't at me for how I'm doing my makeup. This is just like the easiest, simplest, fastest way to get the look that I want. If you get book of the month, let me know which book you got for February in the comments down below. So anyway, I just wanted to chat through a bit of my unsurety at this point because I know like not a lot of people watch my channel, but I really just make these videos for fun. Like I'm not expecting a ton, but I would like to grow like a little community on here. But I also don't want to cause myself too much stress because I have enough of that in my life already. And as I'm applying to graduate school, I'm wondering, and this is just me really talking out loud, if it would be good to kind of switch more to more lifestyle heavy content so that I can talk about like grad school applications and preparation, and then when I go, if I get in, then I could talk more about like my actual courses and stuff. I know that I can talk about whatever I want, but because A, very few people are watching, and B, it's my thing that I'm doing. But I've felt these last 2 or so weeks while I've been vlogging that my reading vlogs are kind of empty, and I want to be reading a lot. But I just am not right now, and I feel very behind on what I want to be doing this year in terms of like reading and YouTube and all that stuff, and I feel like I'm going nowhere slowly. Not even going nowhere fast, I'm going nowhere really slowly. I don't really have any particular goals to get somewhere. I feel like I didn't really... I mean, there are a couple of New Year's resolutions, and New Year's resolutions are arbitrary anyway. But there are a couple of like goals that I've had that I am actively achieving, and I've seen growth towards that goal that are like outside of what I would talk about on the internet. But also I feel super behind on like reading, which is something that I always... No, as long as I've been, basically from middle school on, when school got really intense for me in middle school, since then I've wanted to do more reading. That's just been like a permanent fixture of my goal setting for the last 10 years, essentially. I am very grateful, no matter what is going on, for my apartment, the food in my pantry, the stability that the job I go to every day gives me, all that kind of stuff. I'm just over the moon about that. But secondarily, I'm trying to figure out what to do with myself. Because then when I'm like, oh, I'm not going to worry about reading, I'm not going to worry about making YouTube videos or doing anything with my spare time in particular, then I just end up sitting and staring at the wall. And then I get upset because I don't have anything to do with my spare time. That's all I wanted to say right now. Just a little babble to get us started, as a Frolic Through Fiction would say. She'd call it a babble. Maybe I'll have some clarity later. Maybe I'll have a reading update. But either way, I will talk to you soon. Hello. So, it is Tuesday night. Here is my cat. Don't scratch on that. And I just got home from work and picking up some items at the store. And tonight I have one goal and one goal only. That is to finish Black Cake by Charmaine Wilkerson. All I want to do tonight, all I need to do tonight is finish this book. I'm not gonna say I'm not going to, but I don't want to go to sleep until I finish this book. Okay? Okay. Fantastic. I am so excited. Also, I did order my Book of the Month box for February, but I will show that when it comes in the mail next week. So it's 12:20 and it is so late because I did fall asleep for a while, but I woke up and I just finished Black Cake. I absolutely adored it. I'll talk more about it tomorrow. Right now I'm gonna go get ready for bed and go to sleep, but I actually forgot to talk about my thoughts on Black Cake, so watch out for my February wrap-up where I will give some more in-depth thoughts on Black Cake because I forgot to in this vlog. Wow, truly a piece of art. Incredible. Amazing. Never before seen. Fabulous. Fantastic. Thursday evening. By now, you will have seen some footage of me going to Build-A-Bear yesterday. My friend has a birthday this weekend, so me and my two girlfriends, one of the friends with the birthday this weekend, and then my best friend Danny, we were out shopping for outfits for our what we're doing this weekend. And I decided to stop by Build-A-Bear because I have been having a really hard time mental health wise, and I saw that little hippo and I was like, man. So if you haven't already seen my February TBR video, there is a full reveal of my Build-A-Bear in that video, so go watch it. Yeah, he's featured in the video. What a wonderful creation I've made. But anyway, I have started and gotten a significant way into 2 books since I last saw you, so I wanted to come and update you on that. So first up, I'm listening to Ariadne by Jennifer Saint, which is a retelling of the myth of Ariadne, which, oh my gosh, that poor woman. Like, all this crazy stuff is happening to her. I really didn't know anything about Ariadne. So Ariadne is the sister of the Minotaur, which I didn't know the backstory of the Minotaur. I didn't know the backstory of the Minotaur, and I was horrified, to be completely honest. But anyway, so I am listening to Ariadne. I'm really enjoying it. It's very dramatic. It just, like, every time I listen to it, I'm just like, ugh, to be a Greek princess. She's so dramatic. She's got so many feelings. It's awesome. So I think I'm about 40% into that audiobook. It's about 12 hours long, and I'm listening to it at 1.75. I may up it to 2 times pretty soon. I just like to listen to my books at a slower rate until I get used to the voice, which is about 50% of the way through, and then I'll like hike up the speed. But yeah, I'm super enjoying Ariadne. And then I physically am reading Frankenstein finally. So I'm reading this gorgeous Barnes & Noble soft leather-bound edition, and I'm about 54 pages in, and I was really surprised. So I think when I read Dracula, I was really surprised by like the method of storytelling, and I remember talking about it on my channel. So I'll like link maybe in a card the vlog where I read Dracula, because I talk a lot about the writing style and like the narrative style and how different it was. Like, I had never read anything like it. But Frankenstein is very similar. So Dracula is told through a series of letters and journal entries, not through like straight narration, as is Frankenstein. So Frankenstein opens with this guy writing letters to his sister, and he ends up finding Victor Frankenstein like adrift on a raft and takes him in and gets him like warmed up and has some food. And then Victor Frankenstein tells him this wild story, and the guy is writing it down. So it's a transcription of Victor Frankenstein telling his own story, which is actually very similar to Black Cake, which I just finished, which is kind of funny. Yeah, so far Victor has gone to school, grown up, created his monster, and run away. So the monster has not followed him yet. But yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty crazy. But there are some passages that I just had to annotate, because is it weird that I identify with Victor Frankenstein? Oh wait, no, this is the guy writing letters. But this really struck me hardcore. There is something at work in my soul which I do not understand. I am practically industrious, painstaking, a workman to execute with perseverance and labor. But besides this, there is a love for the marvelous, a belief in the marvelous, intertwined in all my projects, which hurries me out of the common pathways of men, even to the wild sea and unvisited regions I'm about to explore. And he writes that in a letter to his sister before he goes out on the sea, and then ends up finding Victor Frankenstein adrift on this raft. So I identify with both of these men, which I feel like is a bit concerning. And the exclamations of Victor Frankenstein about his like passions and beliefs about what science should be and all that stuff are also so impactful. I love it. So he says, under the guidance of my new preceptors, I entered with the greatest diligence into the search of the philosopher's stone and the elixir of life, but the latter soon obtained my undivided attention. Wealth was an inferior object, but what glory would attend the discovery if I could banish disease from the human frame and render man invulnerable to any but a violent death. The language in here, comparatively to other language of the time, is pretty plain, so I am enjoying that a lot too. Oh yeah, okay, this was where I identified with Victor Frankenstein, okay? So it says, I do not ever remember to have trembled at a tale of superstition or to have feared the apparition of a spirit. Darkness had no effect upon my fancy, and a churchyard was to me merely the receptacle of bodies deprived of life, which, from being the seat of beauty and strength, had become food for the worm. Hamlet, hello. But also, that really hit me. I was like, wow, I don't really want to identify with this guy, but here we are. So anyway, much adoring this. So I had to take a half day off from work today because I am super struggling with my mental health. I am not going to get all the way into it. Obviously, that would be not appropriate for YouTube. But I do just want to talk a little bit about it because there's something very strange about being in mental health recovery when you also know that things are never going to be completely okay. So I have struggled with anxiety and OCD since I was a child, and that eventually in my early teenage years turned into depression because there's only so much anxiety you can experience before your body just kind of shuts off. And as I may have mentioned on my channel before, for the first time, I'm truly medicated how I need to be. I've been in therapy with an amazing therapist for over a year now, and I truly am getting better every day. But it's really strange because I'm at a point now where I go through periods of everything being really awesome, of feeling really good, of nothing can stop me. I'm actually healing. I'm feeling great. And then if I don't do my mental health hygiene and my maintenance, that can all go away in an instant. So the first week of January, I had so many really, really good months. October, November, and December were really, really awesome for me. November and December in particular. And I wasn't coming up against a lot of big triggers. When I was really able to nimbly kind of get around them, to talk myself kind of around the barriers that I was facing. And then I just got to a point in January where I couldn't do that. I had a severe couple days of anxiety and some OCD, but mainly just generalized worry, anxiety, all that. Which then, because that got so out of control, and because I didn't pay attention to it, because I had been doing so well, that ended up putting me in a space of depression. And I am doing my best to pull myself out of it. I am doing my best to also let it be where it needs to be and try to improve it where it needs to improve. And finding that balance is really hard to know. It's hard to know, what do I need to push myself on and what do I need to just let go and let depression happen. Yeah, it's hard to balance because everything is terrible when I'm depressed. That's the thing, is that it's not that my perspective on things changes, but my ability to handle things changes. So whatever I don't like when I'm feeling good, I'm not going to like it when I'm depressed. Whatever I do like when I'm feeling good, I'm going to still like it when I'm depressed. But things that really hurt my feelings, because I do really wear my heart on my sleeve, and that's not something I really want to change about myself, but it is something that can be hard to deal with, because things that hurt my feelings that I can kind of get over after maybe a couple hours when I'm feeling good are things that will end up bothering me for days, or weeks even, when I'm not feeling well. It's just harder to handle the things I have to handle when I'm depressed. And I feel like that is the adult edition of my depression. Because when I was a teenager and I had like a depressive episode, I would just get super angry at everybody and cry all the time. But now I know how to manage myself. It's just, it gets a lot harder to exist. I just wanted to share a little bit about what's going on. Hey vlog, it's Sunday night and I just finished reading Frankenstein, but it's pretty late, so I'm gonna talk to you about it tomorrow, but I just wanted to establish it's Sunday night and I finished Frankenstein. Hi, welcome to my cooking channel. So I'm home from lunch. It's Monday morning. Like I said, it was too late to get into Frankenstein last night, so I thought that I would do it today. So, Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Like I mentioned, this was the first time I've ever gotten to read this book, and I thought it was great. It very much reminded me of the same kind of style as Dracula, which I read over a year ago, but Dracula kind of lost interest for me halfway through because the style changed, but the style of Frankenstein was very consistent. I didn't expect, so like I said, I've never read Frankenstein. I only really know about Frankenstein through the public consciousness, really. I wasn't expecting the monster to have such a long monologue that was like 20 or 30 pages of him just talking. And not to mention that this book was already a transcription of things that Victor Frankenstein had said to the, he kind of serves as the bookends or like the host of the book, if that makes sense. He hosts the story for Victor Frankenstein. What was his name? William something that starts with an H.
Definitely not. His name is Robert Walton.
So I really found myself not being very scared, which, I mean, like, whatever, not a lot scares me these days, honestly, but I found myself less being horrified at the horror of what was taking place and more scared for Victor Frankenstein. I've always heard people talk about like what a piece of hot garbage Victor Frankenstein is, and I personally didn't really feel it, especially because he's so young and had just started off on what he thought was going to be a luminous scientific career. I actually, call me crazy, it's fine. But I really had a lot of sympathy for Victor Frankenstein in that he really thought that he was doing something good for humanity. And is so often in our world that we live in, we think we're doing something good for somebody and end up through misdirection, completely just in the wrong, doing something awful. I really did appreciate that aspect of him as a true scientist, as somebody who truly is very interested in taking away the suffering of humanity, because I do think that at its core, that's what a lot of science truly is trying to take away the suffering of humanity. And obviously there are some sciences that are just there for the sake of learning, which there's also nothing wrong or any less wonderful about that than the sciences that are there to kinds of conquer what it means to be a person. But I do think that Victor Frankenstein was deprived of some significant mentorship that a lot of us do get in our education. And so therefore, he didn't have, like, he just naturally wasn't a person who put a lot of ethical considerations into what he was doing, and he didn't have a mentor there to tell him, hey, like, maybe we should think about this, or a mentor to guide him towards a more specific study. He just said, I want to take away the suffering of humanity, I want to conquer death, and this seems like the easiest way to do so, and went after his experiment, which was creating the monster. I felt that Victor Frankenstein was a very misguided and unguided young scientist, and that's why he ended up doing what he did. I also found it interesting that not a lot of the narrative was focused on the creation of the monster, which, when you're looking at like interpretations or inspirations of things that are kind of inspired by Frankenstein, there is a lot of focus on the creation of the monster, and then usually the monster will either be comedic relief or the monster will function as intended. I'm thinking about, I was surprised at how much of the book, like seriously, out of 200 pages, I would say 150 pages were focused on the experience of both Victor Frankenstein and the monster after the monster's creation. Basically, the creation of the monster was like a one-liner. It was like, yeah, and then I created this grotesque thing, and he described him just a little bit, and then done. The rest of it was about the emotional experience that followed thereafter. One other thing I've heard a lot from other people talking about Frankenstein is that he's basically like an unparented toddler, the monster is. And I would venture to disagree. I see the monster as a fully formed human being who was just never taught anything, had to learn on his own. The emotions got too much for him. I think it is unfair to adult people to say that, you know, unbridled emotions are something that a toddler would have, because we all have emotions, huge, big emotions, and the thing with toddlers is that they are unabashed in expressing them. Whereas the monster in Frankenstein really tried for a significant period of time, tried over and over and over again to contain his feelings. But then he ended up making an intentional decision to disregard that control. Like, for example, when he commits murders, which were actually kind of shocking to me, so as a person who never read it before, so I won't spoil who it is, but when he ends up committing those murders, they're very intentional. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he knows exactly why he's doing it, which is to get back at Victor, and to cause Victor pain, and to cause Victor the pain of loneliness that he has felt. because he feels that he was created in, you know, a fit of scientific apathy. He did not feel that Victor put a lot of thought or feeling into creating him, and now he is burdened with having to live. Both of those guys were incredibly complex characters. I also found a bit of metaphor in what you can correlate the relationship between Victor and his monster to someone's everyday life. You know, in psychology classes and in counseling, we always say, you know, your trauma isn't your fault, but it is your responsibility. Like, okay, so say that the moment of creating the monster was a moment of trauma. Now, Victor is entirely at fault for creating this monster. So that part, not including that aspect, the moment of creating the monster, we could see that as a moment that a trauma took place and the monster grew up out of this. And the older the monster gets and the monster isn't addressed by any other human person, the monster is not nurtured in any way by its creator, it then, because its creator fears it so much, he runs away. And continues running and running and running from the memory that, you know, this happened. And eventually the monster starts destroying aspects of his life. And he says, I will be with you on your wedding night. I will never leave you alone until you address me. And I think even then, if Victor had said, had been a good father, really, and turned and said, what can I do for you? How can I make it up to you? You know, I think it would have helped, but it wouldn't have changed anything because of all of those years of neglect, and the monster just got out of control. Victor ended up with his fate as well because of that unaddressed monster. And I think, like I said, not including the part where it completely is Victor's fault that this monster exists, we can view the relationship between Victor and the monster as unaddressed trauma with an avoidant attachment style. I just know from personal experience that no matter how far you run away from something, it will eventually come back to you. So it's better to turn and face it when you're able to. Obviously, because Victor and the monster are different entities and entirely, Victor couldn't have healed the monster in the same way that, you know, something that happened to me 5 years ago. Now I can turn around and start working through that and eventually kind of get through it. It will never leave me, just like the monster, but because they're different entities and it's not just a part of himself, Victor can't really fix it. But I do think it's an interesting kind of analogy to pull. Aside from Frankenstein, which I loved, obviously got lots of thoughts on it. I was listening to Ariadne this weekend and I am not quite finished with it yet as of Sunday night when I am speaking to you from the past, but I will be trying to finish it today, which is Monday. But otherwise, that is all that I have for this vlog. If you have watched all the way through this ramble about Frankenstein, greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much. I hope that you are doing well. If you're not, I hope it gets better soon. I hope to see you around here in the future, and I hope that you love what you're reading. Goodbye!